You ever notice how a woman can be around two different guys, and with one, she's completely at ease, laughing, opening up, trusting him almost instantly, while with the other, she's guarded, distant, and just can't seem to relax? It's not random. There's something deeper happening under the surface, something that goes beyond looks, status, or even what you say. It's about the energy you give off, the kind that tells her, you're safe here. But here's the thing most men don't realize. That energy doesn't come from pretending to be confident or acting dominant. It comes from the way you handle your own inner world. In today's world, so many men are silently struggling with pressure, comparison, rejection, and this constant feeling of not being enough. You scroll through social media and see everyone else winning, and suddenly your own life starts to feel like it's falling behind. That tension builds inside. You start doubting your worth, questioning your purpose, and wondering why things feel off no matter how hard you try. And women can sense that, not because they're judging you, but because emotional energy is real. It communicates even when you don't. A man who's centered, who respects himself, who's grounded in his own path, he gives off peace. He's not trying to impress anyone. He's not chasing validation. He's comfortable in silence. And that kind of presence makes her feel secure. It's psychological safety, the space where she knows she won't be judged, controlled, or compared. From a psychological perspective, that safety comes from self-regulation. When a man can manage his own emotions, when he doesn't let anger, insecurity, or anxiety run the show, he becomes a safe space for others. Confidence, at its core, is emotional stability. It's not loud, it's consistent. It's not about having all the answers, it's about being okay even when you don't. So if you want to be the kind of man she feels safe with, start with how you treat yourself. Are you patient with your own growth? Do you speak to yourself with respect? Are you feeding your mind with things that build you up or drain you? Your habits, your mindset, your self-talk, they shape the energy you carry, because in the end, the men who make women feel safe aren't perfect, they're present. They don't need to prove anything, they're just real, calm, and grounded in who they are. And that's the kind of strength that never needs to be announced. Emotional safety begins with inner stability. Women feel safe with men who regulate their emotions, not suppress them. This is one of those truths that's simple to understand but hard to live out, because emotional stability doesn't come naturally in a world that constantly pushes men to be in control, strong, and unaffected. From a young age, most men are told to toughen up, to hide how they feel, to keep their emotions buried, because vulnerability has been labeled as weakness. But what that actually creates is emotional suppression, not regulation, and the difference between the two is massive. When you suppress your emotions, you push them down until they leak out in other ways. Anger, detachment, sarcasm, withdrawal, or even overcompensating with control. When you regulate your emotions, you acknowledge them, you understand where they come from, and you learn to respond rather than react. That process builds a quiet kind of strength that doesn't depend on pretending to have it all together. It's real, and women can sense it the moment they're around it. Inner stability means you've learned to stay calm even when life feels uncertain. It doesn't mean you never feel fear or frustration. It means those emotions don't own you. You can sit with them, breathe through them, and still make choices from a place of clarity instead of chaos. That ability comes from emotional awareness, the skill of noticing what's happening inside you before it spills out into your behavior. A lot of men struggle here because emotional awareness has never been encouraged. Society gives men permission to be angry, but not anxious, determined, but not doubtful. Yet all of those emotions are part of being human. When you can name what you're feeling without judging it, you take away its power to control you. Women, on a deep psychological level, look for cues of safety when they interact with men. It's not something they consciously calculate, it's instinctual. When a man reacts impulsively, raises his voice, becomes defensive, or shuts down emotionally, her body interprets that as danger. She might not say it, but she feels it. Her nervous system literally responds to it. On the other hand, when a man stays composed, when his tone stays steady, when he listens instead of trying to fix everything, she relaxes. Her body feels safe because his energy signals calm. That's emotional regulation in action. It's not something you fake through words or gestures. It's felt through consistency and control. Inner stability is built in small moments, not grand gestures. It's choosing to pause before responding to something that triggers you. It's learning how to communicate anger without aggression, disappointment without guilt, and frustration without blame. Those are mature emotional skills, and they separate men who attract peace from those who attract chaos. Every relationship mirrors the emotional world of the people inside it. If your inner world is unstable, everything around you will feel unstable too. But when your internal world is balanced, you naturally create an environment of safety because people can sense that you won't break under pressure or lash out when things go wrong. A lot of men mistake suppression for control. They think staying silent about emotions makes them stronger, but what actually happens is the opposite. Unprocessed emotions harden you. They build walls instead of resilience. Emotional regulation, on the other hand, softens you in the right way. It keeps you strong but flexible. You don't snap, you adapt. You don't deny pain, you face it. That balance of strength and softness is magnetic. Women don't feel safe with men who bury their emotions. They feel safe with men who can face them without letting them take over. Psychologically, this connects to something called co-regulation. Humans naturally regulate each other's nervous systems through interaction. When one person is calm, the other feels it and mirrors it. When one person is tense or anxious, that energy spreads too. So when a man has emotional stability, he becomes a grounding presence. A woman can sense it in the way he breathes, the way he pauses before reacting, the way he holds eye contact without trying to dominate. She doesn't have to worry about what version of him she'll get that day. That predictability, that emotional steadiness, creates a deep subconscious sense of safety. For many men, inner stability starts with becoming aware of triggers. Triggers are not signs of weakness, they're signs of wounds that haven't been healed. Maybe you were rejected before, or made to feel invisible, or grew up around conflict that taught you to shut down. Those patterns don't disappear just because you get older. They show up in how you respond to stress, to love, to uncertainty. Learning to regulate means noticing when those old patterns start replaying and choosing differently. That's what growth looks like. It's not about never getting triggered. It's about not letting your triggers define your behavior. Another key part of emotional regulation is learning to separate emotion from identity. You might feel angry, but you are not anger itself. You might feel fear, but you are not fear. When you can witness your emotions without becoming them, you gain power. You no longer drown in your feelings, you surf them. This kind of self-awareness doesn't happen overnight, but the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Meditation, journaling, therapy, or even just talking honestly with someone you trust can help you build that awareness. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is automatic, response is conscious. When you react, you're controlled by emotion. When you respond, you're guided by understanding. Women notice that difference. A man who reacts makes her feel uncertain. A man who responds makes her feel secure because she knows he's thinking, not just feeling. He's leading with awareness, not impulse. That sense of emotional control doesn't come from dominance. It comes from maturity. Emotionally stable men also take care of their mental and physical health. You can't expect your emotions to be balanced if your lifestyle is chaotic. Sleep deprivation, poor diet, excessive stress, and lack of exercise all weaken your emotional resilience. The body and mind are deeply connected. A calm mind often lives in a well cared for body. Inner stability grows when you respect your body as much as you respect your goals. A man who's physically grounded tends to be emotionally grounded too. In relationships, women often test emotional stability without realizing it. They bring up uncomfortable topics. They express frustration. They share their insecurities. It's not about drama, it's about trust. She's observing whether you can handle emotional depth without running, minimizing, or flipping it back on her. If you can stay calm in those moments, listen, and respond with empathy, you're showing her that you're emotionally safe. That safety builds attraction far deeper than looks or charm ever could. Inner stability also means not depending on a woman to fix or complete you emotionally. Many men fall into the trap of seeking emotional stability through relationships instead of within themselves. But no woman can carry the weight of your unresolved emotions. When you make her responsible for your peace, you create pressure instead of partnership. Emotional regulation means you've done enough inner work that your happiness isn't fragile, that your peace isn't easily stolen. You're not emotionally dependent, you're emotionally available. To develop that kind of self-control, you have to practice mindfulness in your daily life. Notice your body's signals, your breathing, your tension, your heart rate. When you're stressed or angry, your body always tells the truth before your words do. When you feel triggered, take a breath, step back, and ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? That small pause is the space where emotional maturity lives. Over time, that habit rewires your brain. You start to feel emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Women feel safe with men who don't let emotions explode or disappear. When you're angry, you express it calmly. When you're sad, you allow yourself to feel it without drowning in it. When you're stressed, you communicate instead of shutting down. That's emotional regulation in action. It's a skill that improves every part of your life: relationships, work, leadership, even self-confidence. Because when you know you can handle your own emotions, you trust yourself. That self-trust radiates as quiet confidence. From a psychological standpoint, inner stability is the foundation of secure attachment. A man who's emotionally regulated forms healthy connections without fear of losing himself. He can love deeply without becoming dependent. He can disagree without becoming defensive. He can lead without controlling. These qualities come from emotional maturity, and emotional maturity begins with being honest about what you feel instead of pretending you don't. There's something powerful about a man who can say, I'm frustrated, but I'll handle it. Or, I'm hurt, but I'll work through it. That kind of ownership over your inner world communicates strength in the purest form. It shows that you're not afraid of your emotions, that you've made peace with your humanity. And that peace is what women sense as safety. It's not about perfection. It's about stability. Stability in how you think, how you feel, and how you act when life gets messy. The truth is, women don't expect men to be emotionless. They just want to feel that when the world feels chaotic. The man beside them won't add to the chaos. He'll be a calm presence, a steady energy. That steadiness doesn't come from pretending to be unaffected. It comes from being aware and self-controlled. When you live from that place, you don't just make women feel safe. you make yourself feel safe too. Because you know that no matter what happens outside you, you can handle what's happening inside you. That's the kind of emotional power that lasts quiet, calm, confident, and grounded in truth. It's what separates the man who needs to control his environment from the man who simply controls himself. And that's where real safety begins. Confidence isn't performance, it's quiet self-assurance built through self-respect and consistent habits. Many men misunderstand what confidence really looks like because the world constantly sells them a version that's loud, external, and attention-seeking. They see confidence as something you show off through appearance, success, or dominance, but genuine confidence doesn't need to be broadcasted. It doesn't depend on validation or visibility. It lives quietly inside the man who knows who he is, what he stands for, and what he's working toward. That kind of confidence can't be faked because it's not about pretending to be strong. It's about actually becoming strong from the inside out. It's a byproduct of integrity, discipline, and a grounded sense of worth that doesn't fluctuate with other people's opinions. True self-assurance grows slowly. It's built through the promises you keep to yourself when no one is watching. Every time you follow through on something you said you would do. Whether it's waking up early, finishing a workout, or setting a boundary, you strengthen the belief that you can trust yourself. That's the foundation of real confidence, self-trust. When you trust yourself, you don't need to perform for others because your value is already secure. You're not chasing external approval to feel significant. You move with purpose, not pressure. The problem is that society rewards the opposite. We live in a time where confidence is often confused with noise, with the loudest voice in the room, the most visible achievement, the curated online persona. But that kind of confidence is brittle. It cracks the moment external circumstances change. A man who builds his worth on status or validation becomes dependent on what he can't control. If his achievements fade, his confidence fades too. That's not strength, that's fragility disguised as power. The kind of confidence that lasts has nothing to do with image. It comes from character. When you develop real self-respect, it changes everything about how you carry yourself. You stop negotiating your value. You no longer tolerate environments, relationships, or habits that shrink you. You start to speak from a place of conviction instead of needing to convince. You become calm in your demeanor because you're not desperate to prove yourself. And that calmness is what makes others listen. People feel drawn to those who don't need to compete for attention. They project authority simply through their composure. Women, especially, are deeply attuned to that. They can feel the difference between a man who's centered in himself and one who's performing to be seen. The first one feels safe, the second one feels uncertain. Self-respect is built through alignment. When your actions match your values. Every time you do something that goes against your integrity, even in small ways, you chip away at your confidence. You might think no one notices, but your mind keeps score. You start to feel disconnected from yourself because your behavior doesn't reflect who you want to be. Over time, that disconnection shows up as insecurity. You begin overcompensating to hide it. That's when confidence turns into performance. You start chasing approval to mask the emptiness that comes from self-betrayal. The way out of that cycle is simple but not easy. Live in alignment. Do what you say. Be who you claim to be. Consistency is what transforms self-respect into confidence. You don't become confident by reading affirmations or hyping yourself up. You become confident by living in a way that earns your own respect. That means setting standards and holding yourself to them. It means showing up even when you don't feel like it. It means building routines that support your growth instead of numbing your potential. Confidence is less about feeling good all the time and more about trusting that you'll show up for yourself even when you don't feel good at all. From a psychological standpoint, confidence is closely linked to something called self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to influence outcomes through your own actions. When you consistently take action and see results, no matter how small, your brain begins to associate effort with progress. You start to believe in your capacity to handle challenges. That belief becomes a stabilizing force. You're no longer paralyzed by fear because you've experienced what happens when you face it. Every challenge becomes proof that you can adapt. That's where quiet confidence grows, not from ego, but from evidence. Self-assurance also comes from emotional independence. When your happiness depends on how others view you, you'll constantly feel unstable. True confidence is about being grounded in your own perception of yourself, not the world's. That doesn't mean arrogance or indifference. It means you value feedback without being defined by it. You listen, but you don't lose yourself. You can take criticism without collapsing and receive praise without becoming addicted to it. That balance makes you emotionally untouchable in the best way possible. Many men fall into the trap of external validation because it gives quick rewards. Compliments, attention, or success temporarily fill the void of self-doubt, but it's fleeting. The moment the applause stops, the emptiness returns. Internal validation, on the other hand, lasts because it's rooted in truth. It's built on effort, growth, and character. A man who validates himself doesn't need to chase admiration. He's already satisfied with who he's becoming. That kind of energy feels grounded and it radiates effortlessly. Women notice that kind of quiet strength instantly. When a man walks into a room with self-respect, he doesn't need to dominate the space adjusts to him. His confidence is unspoken, expressed through subtle details, posture, tone, patience, eye contact, how he listens, how he treats others. He's present without demanding to be seen. That calm presence communicates leadership and safety because it's not performative, it's real. The truth is, performance-based confidence often comes from insecurity. When you're unsure of yourself, you try to project the opposite. You exaggerate qualities to gain approval. But people can sense the difference between authentic strength and inflated ego. Real confidence isn't defensive or dismissive. It doesn't need to diminish others to feel powerful. It coexists with humility because it's secure enough not to compete. You can be confident and kind, assertive and empathetic, strong and gentle at the same time. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Another layer of quiet confidence comes from acceptance. Not complacency, but self-acceptance. It's understanding that you're a work in progress, and that doesn't make you less valuable. In fact, it makes you more relatable. When you can look at your flaws without shame, you stop needing to hide them. You stop performing perfection and start living authenticity. People feel safe around authenticity because it's real. You're not pretending to be untouchable. You're simply being yourself. That kind of presence inspires trust. Confidence also thrives in purpose. When a man knows what he's working toward, his energy has direction. Purpose gives meaning to discipline, and discipline strengthens identity. A man with direction doesn't get easily distracted by temporary pleasures or external noise because he's anchored in something bigger. He's not hustling for approval, he's building a legacy. That focus naturally creates confidence because it removes the uncertainty that comes from living aimlessly. You don't need to compare yourself when you're following your own path. Habits play a crucial role in maintaining confidence. The way you start your morning, the way you eat, the way you talk to yourself. These small things shape your mindset every day. When your habits align with your values, they reinforce your self-respect. For example, keeping your space organized might seem trivial, but it communicates to your brain that you're in control of your environment. Working out regularly reminds you that you're capable of pushing through discomfort. Reading or learning something new builds mental discipline. These routines stack up over time, creating a foundation of stability that your confidence stands on. Confidence also requires boundaries. Without them, you drain your energy trying to please everyone. Boundaries protect your peace and reinforce your self-worth. They remind you that saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you self-aware. When you honor your boundaries, you communicate to yourself that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. That self-respect deepens your confidence because you're no longer afraid of losing people who can't respect you. Another important aspect of quiet confidence is patience. In a world obsessed with instant results, patience is power. A man who can wait, who can stay consistent without needing immediate validation, develops a rare kind of strength. Patience teaches you to trust the process rather than forcing outcomes. That trust reduces anxiety, which makes you more composed and confident. You're not desperate for success because you know it's inevitable if you keep showing up. That mindset turns every failure into feedback instead of evidence of inadequacy. Quiet self-assurance also shows in communication. Confident men don't rush to fill silence or dominate conversations. They listen more than they speak. They ask thoughtful questions. They speak clearly, not loudly. Their words have weight because they come from self-awareness, not insecurity. They don't use conversation to prove superiority. They use it to connect. That emotional intelligence makes others feel heard and valued, which strengthens relationships naturally. From a psychological perspective, true confidence is tied to self-concept, the mental image you hold of yourself. When that self-concept is positive and realistic, your behavior aligns with it. You act in ways that confirm your worth instead of seeking permission to express it. But if your self-concept is fragile or negative, you constantly look for external reassurance to fill that gap. That's why it's so important to build your identity intentionally, through your actions, values, and environment. The more aligned you are with your authentic self, the less you need to perform. Quiet confidence isn't about being emotionless or detached. It's about being grounded in your emotions so they don't control you. You can express vulnerability without losing strength. You can admit mistakes without losing authority. You can be open without being naive. That kind of emotional balance takes practice, but it's what separates confidence from arrogance. Arrogance hides insecurity, confidence embraces humanity. To live confidently, you have to let go of comparison. Comparison steals joy and creates constant dissatisfaction. Someone will always be richer, more attractive, or more successful, but no one can replicate your exact path, your story, your growth. Confidence grows when you stop measuring your worth by someone else's timeline. You begin to focus on progress, not perfection. And when you do that, you start feeling grounded instead of anxious. Women are deeply drawn to men with this kind of confidence because it signals emotional security. He's not threatened by her strength. He doesn't need to compete or control. He leads with calmness and clarity, and that creates safety. His confidence allows her to relax into her own feminine energy because she senses he's stable, not easily swayed by emotion or ego. That kind of energy doesn't come from pretending to be alpha. It comes from being emotionally evolved. At the core of quiet confidence is humility, not the kind that downplays your worth, but the kind that understands you don't need to prove it. You know your strengths and accept your flaws. You're teachable yet secure. You walk with grace, not entitlement. And that's what makes your presence magnetic. Confidence and humility together form a balance that feels natural and effortless. Every day, you have opportunities to strengthen or weaken your confidence. The small decisions, to stay disciplined, to speak honestly, to honor your boundaries, to take care of your body, all shape how you see yourself. You don't wake up confident, you build it through repetition. Each choice either reinforces self-trust or erodes it. Over time, those small moments define how grounded you feel in your own skin. Confidence isn't a goal you reach, it's a lifestyle you maintain. It's the way you treat yourself when you fail. It's the way you carry yourself when no one's watching. It's the peace you feel when you no longer need to prove anything. It's quiet, it's steady, and it's unshakable because it comes from within. A grounded man leads with presence, not pressure. His calm energy creates trust without words. Presence is one of the most underrated yet powerful qualities a man can have because it's not about doing more, it's about being fully there. In a world that glorifies business, distraction, and constant stimulation, being grounded is becoming rare. Most people are halfway somewhere else, thinking about what's next, what they should say, what they should do, or how they're being perceived. But a grounded man carries a different energy. He doesn't rush to fill silence. He doesn't need to constantly prove his value, and he doesn't let external chaos shake his internal balance. His steadiness makes others feel calm, his attention makes others feel seen, and his consistency makes others feel safe. Women feel that kind of presence immediately because it communicates safety, stability, and confidence without saying a single word. Presence means your mind, emotions, and body are all aligned in the same moment. It's the ability to listen without interrupting, to observe without reacting, to engage without needing to control. When you're fully present, people can sense that they have your undivided attention, not the distracted kind of listening where you're half in your thoughts, half in the room, but the grounded kind where they feel your focus. That kind of attention builds trust faster than charm ever could. When a woman feels that you're truly there, not trying to rush or impress, her guard naturally drops. She doesn't have to perform either. That's the beauty of masculine presence. It gives permission for others to relax into authenticity. The opposite of presence is pressure. Pressure is when you enter interactions with an agenda, to be liked, to get validation, to prove your worth, to be right. Pressure carries a tense energy. It's impatient, it's reactive, it's uncomfortable. Presence, on the other hand, is rooted in ease. You're not trying to make things happen. You're allowing them to unfold. That doesn't mean passivity. It means you act from intention, not insecurity. When a man is present, he's aware of his emotions but not controlled by them. He can navigate situations calmly because his sense of self doesn't depend on the outcome. He's anchored, and that stability influences everyone around him psychologically. Presence is tied to emotional regulation and mindfulness. The human nervous system is always scanning for cues of safety or danger. When someone is grounded, calm, and emotionally centered, others unconsciously mirror that state. This is called co-regulation. A grounded man co-regulates the space he's in. His calm energy lowers anxiety, reduces tension, and invites openness. That's why being grounded is more powerful than being dominant. Dominance might demand attention, but presence earns it naturally. You don't need to be loud or intimidating to be respected. Your calmness already communicates control. Being grounded requires inner discipline. It doesn't just happen because you decide to be calm. It's built through how you live. If your mind is constantly scattered, your body overstimulated, your emotions neglected, you can't expect to project stability. A man who's grounded takes care of his foundation. He has structure in his life, physical routines that strengthen him, mental habits that sharpen him, and spiritual practices that center him. He doesn't rely on the world to give him peace. He creates peace through how he manages himself. When life gets chaotic, he doesn't collapse into panic. He pauses, breathes, and finds his center again. That's what makes him dependable. Not that he never falls, but that he knows how to return to balance every time he does. A grounded man knows how to hold space, to be fully present for someone else without needing to fix them. Many men misunderstand strength as constant action, but sometimes true strength is stillness. It's the ability to sit with discomfort, to listen without trying to solve, to be a steady presence when emotions rise. When a woman feels heard and not judged, she feels safe. When she sees that you can handle emotion without shutting down or becoming defensive, she learns to trust you. That trust isn't built through big speeches or promises, it's built through calm consistency. Every time you show emotional steadiness, you tell her subconsciously, "You're safe here." Grounded men have emotional gravity. They draw people in because their energy feels real, centered, and predictable. You don't have to guess what version of them you're getting. They don't fluctuate based on mood or validation. That consistency builds emotional trust. Women often describe these men as having peaceful energy. Not boring, but stable. It's the kind of energy that doesn't drain you, it restores you. Because around a grounded man, you can exhale. There's no competition for attention, no need to perform, no fear of volatility. That's the gift of presence. It stabilizes the emotional space. The reason presence feels so rare is because most people are stuck living in the past or the future. They're replaying old mistakes or worrying about what might happen next. Presence is the art of coming back to now. You can't control what already happened, and you can't predict everything that's coming. But you can choose how you show up right now. That awareness makes you powerful. When you live in the present, your reactions slow down, your thinking becomes clear, and your energy feels grounded. You stop overanalyzing and start responding intentionally. People notice that difference instantly. They feel it in your eye contact, in your tone, in how you move. Presence also shows in how you manage your energy. It's not just mental focus, it's how you carry yourself physically. Grounded men move slower, breathe deeper, and speak intentionally. There's no rush, no scattered fidgeting, no restless energy. Their body language matches their emotional calmness. That congruence builds credibility because it signals control. When your internal state and external behavior align, you become magnetic. People trust what feels consistent, and inconsistency often triggers anxiety. A grounded man is consistent in both energy and action. Presence requires emotional awareness, which means knowing what's happening inside you without getting lost in it. When you're aware of your feelings, frustration, irritation, excitement, anxiety, you can manage them instead of letting them leak out unconsciously. This makes your interactions cleaner, your words clearer, and your energy calmer. Women often interpret this as confidence because it shows control. You're not reacting impulsively, you're choosing your responses. You become a source of calm, not chaos. Being grounded doesn't mean being passive or emotionless. It means you move with intention, not reactivity. You don't suppress feelings, you understand them. You can express them clearly without making them someone else's responsibility. That balance between awareness and expression is what makes presence powerful. You're emotionally available but not emotionally unstable. You can feel deeply and still remain composed. That kind of strength creates an atmosphere of safety because it shows that you can handle intensity without losing yourself in it. In relationships, grounded men don't use pressure to get attention or affection. They don't manipulate emotions or rush intimacy. They create connection through patience and authenticity.